Charles Oliveira's long and truly remarkable UFC career is nothing short of a total oddity. He has lost 8 times, been stopped 7 times, gotten himself TKO'd or KO'd on 4 occasions, and strangely enough, despite his status as the record holder for the most submissions in UFC history, he himself has been submitted 3 times. In his 41 career fights, he has only seen the judges' scorecards on 4 occasions, leading to an early reputation as a bit of a wild man. But as time went on, this unlikely champion began to round out his skill set, improving his level of technique, his durability, and perhaps above all other things, his mentality. And the end result, the fighter who rules the lightweight division, he's nearly unrecognizable from the lanky youth who entered the promotion at the age of 20. So with that in mind, here are 5 losses that Charles Oliveira had to overcome to win UFC gold. Jim Miller. It is crazy to imagine now, but there was a point in Charles Oliveira's career where he was unbeaten at 14-0 with a 2-0 record in the UFC on the back of 2 straight submissions with a total of 7 in his career, and he was doing this as a purple belt. So in 2010, when the UFC opted to set him up for a clash with his fellow lightweight Jim Miller, about a minute in, even Joe Rogan, who is a longtime black belt himself, made a point of noting just how unlike a purple belt Oliveira was, how elite his movement seemed in comparison to most purple belts. Charles attacked Miller with a wide range of dynamic submissions, putting his opponent, who was a black belt, in some very tricky spots, moving from arm to triangle and then back to arm, before eventually going for a leg. Jim Miller was, and continues to be, a stellar submission artist in his own right, and countered do Bronx by setting up a leg lock of his own, forcing the tap out of his adversary. It was Oliveira's first career setback and of course his first defeat in the UFC. Thankfully he was only 21 years of age at the time, but things would get a hell of a lot worse before they would get better for him. Donald Cerrone. After the loss to Jim Miller, Oliveira's rebound fight ended under unfortunate circumstances when a submission he scored over Nick Lentz was overturned due to an illegal knee. In front of Oliveira next time around was a young and hungry Donald Cerrone, who had transitioned seamlessly over from the WEC on the back of a 2-0 stretch of form. And there was just a difference in confidence between these two guys that was on full display when the time came to fight. Largely a striking matchup, Cerrone's excellent Muay Thai skills allowed him to put it on Charles from range, but also then punish him with knees in close whenever Oliveira tried to tie him up. It just looked like a pairing of 2 guys who were on very different trajectories, and once Cowboys coach Greg Jackson told him to focus more on straights when punching, the results were pretty immediate. Dropping Charles with an uppercut after pressuring him to the cage with straights, Cerrone went in for the kill, unleashing a relentless barrage that saw the fight stopped in the first round. Now winless in 3 fights, it was clear that something had to change. On a quick side note, if you're enjoying this content and would like to stay up to date with all of our weekly uploads, be sure to subscribe to the channel now, because as much as we might get knocked out, as much as MMA Dive encounters their own setbacks, you best believe that we are still honing our craft, slowly but surely climbing to the top of the MMA YouTube mountain. Also, we recently set up a Patreon account, so if you want to help support the channel, the link is in the description. Cub Swanson. After leaving the lightweight division in favor of a dip into the 145-pound weight class, back-to-back submission wins were enough to see Charles get a nice bump into the upper echelon. Unfortunately, the man who stood between him and a spot in title contention was the icon Cub Swanson. And while this one was by no means a terrible performance by Charles Oliveira, maybe a bit flat, after a few minutes of feeling each other out, Cub started to loosen up, attempting some huge and some might say wild power shots before eventually finding his mark with a massive overhand, causing a slightly scary looking delayed reaction from do Bronx. But it was a one-shot KO, that much was clear. This marked yet another setback for this future lightweight champion, and by this time, we had already seen him get finished on too many occasions to really see his championship potential in the same way that we would a few years later. Anthony Pettis. Jump forward to 2016, and we all knew who Charles Oliveira was. At this stage, we had seen enough, and in our infinite knowledge of MMA and its repetitive patterns, though it was easy to get excited about an Oliveira fight because of the high probability of a finish, our deep wisdom told us that this was a crazy fighter, an electric talent, but a guy who would never reach the top because of his tendency to let himself down in big moments. And boy did that show up in the Anthony Pettis fight. As Showtime Pettis' 145-pound debut, the narrative going in was all about the former 155-pound king. How now, at this crucial crossroads in his career, he absolutely needed to make something happen for himself, to turn things around. But after a strong opening 5 minutes for Pettis, things began to get really dicey as Oliveira came on strong in the second. By the time the final round arrived, it seemed as though the number 6 ranked do Bronx was about to score a huge victory. But then, out of nowhere, On a takedown attempt, Pettis locked onto his neck, jumping to a guillotine that forced the tap. In a fight that he probably should have won, Oliveira had faltered, and though it wouldn't yet be the last time, soon things would begin to look up. Paul Felder. But before his incredible resurgence would begin, Oliveira was set up for a fight with everyone's favorite fighter turned commentator, Paul Felder. From my own memory, I only really remembered the finish, but the fight actually was a very strong showing from Charles, where he did the Charles Oliveira thing, chaining a wide range of submission attempts, which was also coupled by some promising improvements to his physicality at 155 pounds. He certainly looked good in spots, really testing the submission defense of his opponent. But again, even with momentum and the fight's rhythm going his way, Oliveira faltered once again, eventually letting the Irish Dragon posture up, raining down fiery death in the form of some brutal elbows from guard to finish the fight in particularly brutal fashion in the second round. That was 2017, and from there, Charles Oliveira would not lose another fight. Going 10 for 10 with 9 finishes, Oliveira has managed to pull off a career comeback for the ages. The point of this video wasn't to draw attention to do Bronx's shortcomings, but instead it was to highlight just how far he has come, what it was that he needed to grow beyond in order to become the champion. But what's your own personal favorite Charles Oliveira performance? And I mean the victories, we've focused enough on the negatives for one day. Do let us know your opinions in the comment section below, and if you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like and a comment before subscribing to the channel so you can stay up to date with all of our latest uploads. Thank you for watching.